If I'm being real, Brandin Podziemski is one of the best hoopers you can watch and study, and if you're a young hooper, look up to. 2 years ago, he was on the end of the bench at Illinois, and now at just 20, he's starting alongside Steph Curry and learning from some of the best ever. Part of this is a super well-rounded skill set that allows him to get buckets from all three levels, but there's more to it. So at the end, we'll talk about what really brings all this together and makes it possible for him. Let's get it. So first off, before we talk about anything skill-wise, as you're watching this, just notice the energy he gives off as he plays. And Steve Kerr puts it perfectly here.
He's cocky. He is. He's cocky, and I love it. I love it. He's brash. He knows he's good, and that's important. That's really important in this league to not only think you're good, but to know you're good. Brandon knows he's good, so that's a really good first step. You got to show a little humility amongst the veterans, you know, while you're going about your business, which he's learning, and the guys like him, and he's a fun person to be around. But he works, he's competitive, skilled, tough. He's going to be a really good player.
You can just tell this. Certain players emit a certain level of confidence and assertiveness, and there's no question Pods is one of those guys. Yes, of course, on shots like this, but just as much in making passes like this with no hesitation, and flying around defensively, etc. So just keep an eye out for this. Now, in terms of his attacking, one of the first things I noticed is how well he understands and executes angles. Like right here, he's actually driving slightly away from the rim and into open space, which seems simple but goes against our natural instinct and often what we're taught to drive to the rim at all times. But is it about getting to the rim or getting to space most times? So he's constantly taking the best angles to get into space, and then if the situation calls for it, taking a tighter angle if he has an advantage to the rim for an easier lay. Or if he gets an initial step on a taller and or more athletic defender and he wants to cut them off on his line downhill. Another angle example here, notice how he's driving across the lane. So he's gravitating the big this way and then strides back into open space that he created the other way. Or even dribbling kind of across the court towards the opposite sideline to get to a spot, since most times defenders are sprinting on an angle to the rim like you see here to stop them from getting downhill. And although so many coaches teach players to take the tightest angle possible at all times and always go right by the defender's hips, there's no black and white law for angles, when you should go wide and when you should go more narrow. So it's not easy to develop great feel like this and consistently take quality angles in a split second. But if you make it a focus when you play, you're constantly trying new angles, this is a great skill to develop. Another big quality of his that I picked up on is patience. And this includes pre-drive patience, where he subtly slows down on pump fakes or closeout situations to allow this defender to get closer to him before blowing by. As well as changing speeds with the dribble like here to make sure he gets the best angle possible and most clear second and third layers of defense, rather than just rushing to the rim. Then the patience during his drive is probably even more impressive. Like here, he's not turning out of this spin looking to explode downhill, but rather taking his time with the slight advantage he's created, allowing him to stay more composed and in control. Or here, where he slows down to allow this big to choose between either stepping over or staying with their man, and then he finishes from there. He's just not in a rush to get anywhere, which is impressive to see from such a young player, even when the shot clock is to its final millisecond.
Shot clock at 1, Podziemski to beat the Bucks. His teammates call him big time. He can put the ball on the floor. He's got counter moves too. Podziemski, little get the handoff. You got slow-mo on you.
Once he gets there, he's really good at playing off of 2 feet and doing so fluidly. So not only with jump stops, but striding through the lane, which helps him reactively change direction on his finishes, come to a stop to work out of that if needed, and overall just play with more control.
Screen from Bediako, Rishwing defending it very nicely.
As well as using strides creatively when he does go off 1 foot to get into space, get defenders into the air, slowing down, etc. If you got 2 steps here, you might as well use them to your advantage. He's also getting really good at finding the situations where he's most easily able to attack without being too aggressive. And when they happen, he's ready. So a couple examples of this. Number 1, handoffs, which allow him to attack into an advantage situation rather than a stationary defender. Another one, slipping off ball screens, which if you're playing with any good shooter will work, let alone guys like Steph and Clay, who are constantly using their gravity to pull both defenders out and leave this slip available. Defensive breakdowns too, whether that's defenders losing focus or scrambling defense in transition. Attacking closeouts is always easy. Finding open space on the perimeter for open shots. Or monitoring defenders for when they turn their head so he can cut right into that open space. So it's not like he's going out there to try to get any shots he can to prove himself, but rather hunting easier opportunities where he has very efficient situations to attack or score in. And then if you kill all of this like he does, there will be times where you get a switch or maybe the shot clock's running down and you'll have those go get a bucket situations. And he's more than able to convert on these too. Partially because of how simple he keeps it, using a super quick first step to get even a slight advantage, and then working from there if they recover. Or just pulling a three off something like a sidestep, which definitely seems to be his bread and butter, to slightly stun the defense, but also just create some rhythm for his shot. And then lastly, in terms of his shooting ability, he's also really good at using and creating angles to get shots. Like here, for example, he scoots a bit towards the ball to create more space and catch it earlier rather than waiting for the ball to get to him, and a place that's easier for this defender to close out. And when it's a shot that requires a quicker release, his timing and fluidity is great. Like here, notice how everything goes down at once, everything goes up at once, and it happens as he's catching the ball, so there's no delay at all. Finally, he does an amazing job at shooting and releasing up, which not only gives him good arc, but also helps him create good flow and energy transfer on his shot. Like you can see how upwards this release is, and while everyone's shot is different, this is a pretty surefire way to get some flow on your shot. Now the most important part, the controllables. And I'll let Steph intro this one.
He just knows how to play basketball. He finds a way to impact the game. You can tell he's playing hard at all times. You know, super confident in himself. I think, you know, as a rookie offensively, it's always kind of hit or miss, you know, finding your rhythm and understanding where your shots are going to come from. But the things that you can control, he's probably the best I've seen in a while at doing that every night, and that's all you can ask for.
And there are reasons why certain players who can score the shit out of the ball aren't playing nearly as much as him. Because not everyone can be the guy to score 30. And realistically, you probably won't either, at least at first. But as you control the controllables, you end up on the court more, you get more in a rhythm, and you do end up scoring at a better clip, just like you see with him. So let's talk about some of these quote-unquote controllables, starting with defense. Part of what makes him such a presence on this side of the ball is his constant effort to anticipate and be ahead of the play. Let's look at a couple clips here. On this one, he sees that Pop is coming open and Beal is starting to decelerate, pick it up, and make that pass. So knowing he has backup on his man, he takes a bit of a risk and picks it up. Here he's playing in between two until he goes up into the air. So now the only option, rather than shooting a stupid hard shot, is kicking it out. And knowing that, he backs up and he's already in position for the steal. Now in transition, number one, he gets back ahead of everyone, step one. But then he slows down because he knows Kuminga's going to take care of Murray, and that he probably wants to hit one of these two players behind him, most likely Gordon, and he's there when it happens. So being a step ahead defensively and taking these calculated risks is an unreal skill to have as a rookie.
Who is it though? Yes. Steal by Podziemski. The step around and Clay. Shot clock at 3. And Podziemski.
Then separate from defense, he's constantly making good passes in the flow of the system to feed the vet scorers. He grabs hella offensive rebounds and converts them into open threes for teammates or points for himself. He takes charges.
Shooting 57% from the field. Podziemski.
He pushes in transition assertively to get buckets for the team, and much more. And circling back to confidence, it's a lot easier to have confidence, play freely, and develop psychological momentum to take tougher shots early in your career when you know your time on the court isn't tied directly to making or missing shots, but rather providing value for the team to win, which he absolutely does all game long. And the final lesson I'll leave y'all with is this.
You know, I would complain all the time that the guys ahead of me were getting more opportunity than I was. There was a certain amount of repetitions in practice. The starter would get 20, the backup would get 10, and I would get 2. And I'd go in and I'd say, well, how can I ever get better? All these guys get all the reps and I only get 2. And he said, just go in there and focus with the 2 that you got and make them as perfect as you possibly can. So that's what I did. They'd put me in for those 2. Man, I'd sprint in there like it was Super Bowl 49. Let's go, boys. Here we go. What play we got? And I did really well with those 2 because I brought enthusiasm. I brought some energy, and I had a little more confidence in myself. And it went from 2 reps to getting 4 reps because those 2 were pretty good. Then I had 4 good reps. Then I got 10 good reps. And before you knew it, through this new attitude, through this new shift that Greg had said to me, you know, focus on what you can control. Focus on what you're getting, not what anyone else is getting. Whenever you get an opportunity, you take advantage of it. You treat it like it's the Super Bowl. You treat it like it's game day. Go out there and treat practice like no one else does.
Instead of focusing on, dang, I wish I had more of these, say I have these 4 minutes, I have these, I have 4 minutes. These are like my NBA finals.
Stop complaining about politics, stop complaining about not getting enough minutes, and just shift your focus to getting better daily. And even more importantly, on taking advantage of every opportunity that you do get. Then it's just patience. And that's not easy, but guys like Podziemski show you it's doable.